The row between London and Paris over post-Brexit fishing rights has flared up. France is threatening trade disruptions from next week. This if its boats are not granted more access to British waters. Now, the measures targeting British fish exports will go into effect from 2nd of November. This includes systematic customs and sanitary checks on products brought to France and a ban on landing seafood. Extra checks could also be extended to other merchandise. London's Brexit Minister David Frost has called France's threats disappointing, disproportionate and not what one would expect from a close ally. He further added that the measures being threatened do not appear to be compatible with the Trade and Cooperation Agreement and wider international law. London says that France will get an appropriate and calibrated response. The latest pat has been triggered by licensing rules for EU fishing boats wanting to operate in waters around Britain after Brexit. France has been angry since French boats were rejected by Britain and Channel Islands off Jersey and Guernsey. Later on Wednesday, French Maritime Police finished 2 British fishing vessels operating in the Bay of Seine, and one of the 2 vessels were operating without a license. The British fishing industry exports most of its produce to the European Union. It is highly dependent on the French ports as a gateway to the continent, and this flare-up over fishing is the latest in a series of disagreements that has pushed diplomatic relations between the 2 countries to its lowest point in decades. Now, in June this year, furious Frenchmen had sailed to the main port on Jersey to demonstrate. The incident had prompted Britain to send 2 naval patrol boats in the area. And under the post-Brexit deal, EU fishermen wishing to operate in the UK waters had to prove that they had fished in the area in previous years. Rejected French fishermen say they are being unfairly treated due to bureaucracy. So, the row between London and Paris over the post-Brexit fishing rights has flared up yet again. Now, France has threatened trade disruptions. This could include British exports being targeted this will be targeted from 2nd of November and could include systematic customs. Now, our correspondent, Ollie Barrett, has joined us live now. Thank you so much for joining us, Ollie. France is threatening trade disruptions from next week. What are some of the targeted measures that we're looking at? I've mentioned a few. And what can you tell us about its implications?
If you mean retaliation from the UK side, then the UK has made it clear that it certainly will consider retaliation, talking about the threats to blockade UK boats from ports as being disappointing. That is what the Brexit Minister, Lord Frost, has been saying. Lord Frost had also already been asking for what he called urgent clarification of France's imminent plans and saying that the UK would consider further action which may be necessary in that light. So Britain's certainly looking at its options here, and one of the things that the UK is concerned about is that it wonders whether action being taken by France and being considered by France may actually breach the Brexit deal that it reached with the European Union. Now, from the French side, the French would certainly say that the UK are already breaching some of their commitments when it comes to fishing that came out of the Brexit deal between the UK and the European Union. So one of the things that's going to be interesting in watching how all of this develops is how much support the French have for their actions within the European Union and in
Right, Ollie, what I was coming to next was, we've spoken about retaliation, but what exactly does that mean here? What can we expect going forward?
Well, as I was saying, the UK is wondering whether France might be in breach of some of its commitments when it comes to the trading arrangements reached post-Brexit. And if it were to decide that that were the case, then it could look into whether it needed to respond in a similar fashion. Now, France is warning about the potential disruption to British movements of trade from ports, but also energy supplies as well. And so the UK could look to respond in a similar manner there. I think what is clear is that the UK is hoping things don't get that far and that retaliation isn't needed. The UK has said all along that it is granting, from its part, the vast majority of fishing licences that are being applied for. The French, though, say that particularly off the northern French coast that a lot of French vessels and trawlers are not being granted licences that they feel that they should be. So this is a row that's been rumbling on for some time, but there are also various other areas in which UK and France relations have been strained recently, so it's worth also seeing it in that context too. Worsening ties between Paris and London that we've seen for some time. It's also difficult in terms of the context of the UK, as we speak, being involved in very difficult negotiations with the European Union about the Northern Ireland Protocol, part of the post-Brexit trading arrangements. This certainly doesn't make those negotiations any easier either.
Right, absolutely, Ollie. Thank you so much for joining us with all those updates. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.